Hello students, I'm back. I hope you are all doing good. Before starting, I would like to request you one thing, that please make it more interactive. If you have any doubt, please call me, message me with don't feel any shy. And since I cannot interact through these videos, the only way of interacting is through these messages, through these calls, phone calls only. So my request to please make it virtual, not physical interaction, but at least virtual interaction. Okay, so let's start with the chapter that we have done in the last class. That in the last class we have discussed that what type of matters is matter around us pure or not, and we have discussed that the matters around us, some of the matters are matters, not all matters, some are pure, some are impure, and on that basis, on the basis of purity, we have categorized them in a pure form of matter and impure form of matter. We have also discussed that what should we call a pure form of matter. I have told that the pure form of matter are called what? Are called substances. And what is impure form of matter? Impure form of matter are called mixtures. Yes, we have also discussed the characteristics. What is substances? What kind? We are seeing in the substances there is only single kind of particles are present. But in pure form of substances, different particles are present. There is not only single kind, you will find a different kind of particles in it. Another is on the basis of their constituents. On the basis of the constituents, substances are divided into elements, are classified in two types, that is elements and compounds. And mixture is also classified on the basis of the property. Variation in the properties, we have classified homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. And again, elements has been classified in metals, metalloids and non-metals, anionic, and compounds. I have told you that in compounds they are classified on various properties. On basis of the bonds, they are classified as ionic bonds, ionic compounds. Another is covalent compounds. On the basis of their acidity, basicity, they are also classified as acid, base, salt. So there are different type of properties, and on the basis of the properties they are classified. Now today we will discuss about this elements and the compounds and their characteristics. So now let's understand what is element and compound. But before going through details about those elements and to understand what is elements and compounds, we have to know some basics. We have to know something basic. We know the substance is made up of what? Substance is made up of a pure form of matter. Substance is pure form of matter, and this matter is made up of tiny particles. But do you know what these tiny particles called? These tiny particles is called atom. What they are called? Atoms. Or in a better way, we can say atom is a building block of all matters. Like we say, cell is a building block of all the living organism, like of a building block of human body. We can even say, in that way, we can say that atom is a building block of all matters. But you know, these atoms are so small that you can't even see in a microscope. You need the advanced technology to see, to observe atom. So as a result, if you want to see one atom, you cannot see it. We cannot see. So whatever we are seeing, whatever matter you are seeing, it is aggregation of all the atom. It is aggregation of all atoms. In different type of atoms, not all, aggregation of different type of atoms. So this atom does not exist freely. This atom does not exist freely. They aggregate in a different way. They aggregate in a different way to form a matter. To form a matter, and that matter that we able to see or touch or feel by our fields. For example, air. Air is made up of what? Air contains different kind of gases in it, and these gases are made up of what? These gases are matter, and these gases are made up of what? Tiny particles, that is atom. So we cannot see air, but we can feel it. We can feel it. Similarly, water, we can see water, we drink it. So these matters, so these atoms aggregate, join together in a different way to form a matter that we are able to see or touch. Now let's come to understand what is element. So now we have understood what is atom, and this atom is a building block of all the matters, and they aggregate. These atoms aggregate in a different way. They give us what? They form matter. Now based on this aggregation, they give a different kind of substances. They give a different kind of substances, and these different kind of substances are classified, that is element and what? And compound. Now let's understand this aggregation. Let's understand this aggregation, how this aggregation gives us different substances. Let's take an iron. As you can see, this is iron nail. If you look closer, any point you see, if you see here, or you see here, in all parts you will see small particles, and these small particles contain these small atoms, and these small atoms all contains only one kind of atoms. And what is that? Iron atom. Everywhere you see here, if you see here also you will see aggregation of atoms, and this aggregation of each atom belongs to what? Belongs to iron atom. Of what kind of atom? Iron atom. Similarly here also, if you see a different aggregation of small atoms, and these atoms are all of what? Are all of iron. See, this iron nail is an aggregation of what we see. This iron nail is an aggregation of only iron atoms. Only iron atoms. Only, you cannot see anything, any different atom. Only iron. Wherever you say, you break it into smaller pieces. Even you reach the smallest unit, that smallest unit also contain one atom. One kind of atom, and that atom is iron. You break it into smaller into smaller, even the dot, you reach the dot point. You reach this dot point. Even this dot point, you will see this smallest point. You will see this smallest point is also same kind of atom, that is iron atom. So aggregation, if aggregation of only one kind of atom, if you see an aggregation of only one kind of atom, then we call it as an element. So now we have understood what is element. So element is what? Element is the aggregation of only one kind of atom. You won't find any other kind of atom. You break the iron nails into smaller pieces. Even if you reach the smallest unit also, you will there also find that only one kind of atom, and that is what? That is iron. Similarly, you take aluminium. Any aluminium, you take aluminium sheet. Even also you will find a small each layer. It contains one kind of atom, and that one kind of atom is what? It is aggregation of aluminium atoms. So you can see that element is aggregation of only single kind of atom. So we have seen, as you have taken an example of iron, that iron, whether you take in any part, this, any part, you will find only one kind of particle. This iron contains millions of atoms in it, and each atom, all the atoms consist of only one kind of particle. All the atoms is of one kind of particle, and that is iron atom. So in a better way, we can say, if an aggregation of only one kind of particles or only one kind of atom gives us a pure matter, we know. And if a substance, if a aggregation, if a small group or small aggregation contains only one atom, we will already say it's a pure. Whom we call pure? First we have to understand whom should we call pure. We have seen the pure form of matter contains only single kind of particle, and here you can see that iron containing only one kind of particles. So aggregation of only one kind of atoms give a pure matter. That pure matter we call what? We call substances, and that substances is called what? Element. That substances is called element. So in a better way we can say that element is a substance that contains only one kind of particle, that is atoms. Only one kind of particles, that is atoms. And we know what is atom. Atom is a building block of all the matters. An example is iron, aluminium, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. You take aluminium. Any aluminium sheet you take, you will find only one kind of atoms. Since it is only one kind of atom in it, we will say that is element. Iron, only one kind of atom. Iron nail, you, as an example of iron nail I give. In iron nail also you will find only one kind of particle, one kind of atom, that is iron atom. So we can say that this kind of substances which contains only one kind of atoms or particles, we called it as a element. We called it as a element. Now let's understand their characteristics. So now we have known elements are pure substances. And you know, these elements, there are 100 elements known in universe. You can say in universe, there are 100 elements known in the universe, out of which 92 elements are naturally occurring. Naturally occurring means we know what is naturally occurring. They are available from nature. We don't have to synthesize or we don't have to make them. But others are man-made. There are few elements which were made by the humans. They were not naturally occurred. They are not available in nature. And each element, these 118 elements have their own name, have their distinguished name, and each elements 100 elements name are represented by their own symbols. No two elements have the same symbols. Each elements, whatever you take, iron, you take copper, each elements are represented by their own symbol, distinguished symbol, which no two elements have the same symbol. For example, for hydrogen we use H, for oxygen we use O, for carbon we write it C, for iron we write it Fe, for aluminium we write it Al, and for copper we write it Cu. There also, since it is 18 and 100, we cannot write it in a board, but I will give you the list. You can see the list that there are 118 elements, and each elements have their own name and have their own distinguished symbol. Now comes to the characteristics of element. The characteristics of element means whatever element you take, all these elements will follow a common characteristics. And what that common characteristics is, that these elements cannot be broken into some simpler substances, or we can say by breaking these elements we cannot get any new substance. You use any kind of means. For example, that for I see chemical process or physical process. You use any process. You are going through a physical method like boiling, heating, or you are going by chemical process like reaction, by decomposition, by combustion. Even after going through these processes, from these elements you will not get any new substances. Or simpler substances. For example, take an aluminium sheet. You are taking an aluminium sheet and you are breaking into a smaller and smaller. You are making a smaller and going deeper in breaking into smaller and smaller substances. Smaller, and you reach the point. All these small pieces you will find the aluminium atom. Again you are taking one small pieces. Again you are breaking into further smaller and smaller. And each pieces you will find only one, that is aluminium. Even after you reach the smallest unit, smallest unit of that element, of that aluminium sheet also, in that smallest unit also we will find that only one kind of particle, only one particle, that is aluminium. So see, we cannot break. Even if you are reaching the smallest unit also, you are not getting into new substances. So elements, whatever elements you take or not, elements cannot be broken into a simple substances, or by breaking into from elements we cannot get any new substances by any means. You try by physical process, by chemical process, you won't get any new substances. And this each element has definite properties. Each element has definite properties. Whatever element you take iron will have definite properties, like they have certain as a definite melting point and boiling point. You take copper, it will also have a definite properties. So each elements have these definite properties, and each elements are represented by their own symbol. As I have told that there are 118 elements. 118 elements have their distinguished name, and these elements, each elements have distinguished symbol. No two elements, you will not find that any two elements having the same symbol. Different symbols are used for different elements. Now these elements are classified. As I have told you, these elements are classified based on the one, that is metals, metalloid and non-metals. Now we will see that these elements are classified. Based on first, classification is based on state, which is not important, but it is not included. But we can say that elements are also classified on the basis of the state. We know 3 states. I know there are 5, but major states are what? Solid, liquid and gas, right? So see, based on state, the elements can be classified. There are few elements where you can see that these elements exist in a different state. Not all elements exist in only one state. They exist in 3 states. Solid, you can see iron, aluminium, copper. Liquid, no need to take thermometer. The element present inside the thermometer, that liquid, what is it? It is mercury, and that mercury is also element which is in the form of what? Liquid. Another is bromine, water. Gas, there are various gas. There's not only, I can say there are 11 elements which are in the form of gas. There are 11 elements which are in the form of gas. For example, H2, He, neon, nitrogen, oxygen. So these are all elements. Classified on the based on, we have classified based on state. Now we will classify based on variation of properties. Certain elements follow certain properties and certain other elements follow certain properties, and basis on this variation of properties we group them, and we group them by what? Metal, non-metals and metalloids. We know what is metal. Metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. We have learned it where? We have learned it in class 8. Remember it? They are highly ductile, they are malleable. But what is non-metals? We have also learned about the metals which have the opposite characteristics of the metals. We have seen that what is non-metal, that is, it is a bad conductor of heat and electricity. They are non-ductile, they are non-malleable. So see, based on their properties, see, you can see the properties, variation in the properties. This is a good conductor, this is a bad conductor. And what about the metalloids? Its property is an intermediate between the metals and non-metals. Its property is intermediate between metals and non-metals. metals and non-metals. That is, metalloids. Since metalloids, these metalloids are good conductor of heat and electricity. They have shiny appearance, but they are brittle in nature. They are soft. So you can see that it has an intermediate properties between metals, and they have some properties of metal. Some properties of metal and some properties of non-metal. And due to this mixed up fusioning properties, they are again classified in a different way. These elements are classified, they are called as metalloids. So variation on the properties, they are again classified as metal, non-metals and metalloids. And we know the example, metals are what? Copper, iron, aluminium, gold. Non-metal, sulfur, hydrogen, oxygen, chlorine. These are all non-metals. And what are metalloids? Metalloids are silicon, germanium, indium. These are all metalloids. They are sometimes called as semiconductor elements. So now we have understood what is elements, and then we have understood their characteristics. That elements are those is a substances that contains only one kind of particle. In iron, as you have given example, you are breaking aluminium sheet, you are breaking into smaller and smaller. Even if you reach the smallest unit, you will find only one, that again you will find the same element, same atom, that is aluminium atom. Each element have definite properties. They have fixed melting point, boiling point. They have certain chemical properties. They have certain physical properties. These properties are definite. Whether you take aluminium, whatever aluminium you take now, you take aluminium utensil, you take aluminium sheet, whatever different kind of materials of aluminium you take or not, you will find the definite properties. All this material, aluminium sheet, aluminium container, will conduct electricity, are good conductor of electricity and heat. So see, they have definite properties. Whichever kind of their substances, material you used or not, they will give us definite properties. And these elements have their own symbol. Each elements have their own name, and they are represented by their own distinguished symbol, because no two elements will have same symbol. Hydrogen has H, carbon has C, and these elements are classified based on what? Based on state, solid, liquid, gas. But the major classification is variation of properties, and that is because the properties, certain elements show certain properties, certain elements show other properties, and due to the variation of these properties, these are classified as metals, non-metals and metalloids. Metals, we know what are metals, we know what is non-metals. And what is metalloids? Metalloids are intermediate. Its property, this metalloid elements have a property intermediate between the metals and non-metals. They are good conductor of heat and electricity, but they are soft in nature. So see, based on these, we have classified this element and we have understood this.